Hello everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming out to speak about HB 77. My name is State Representative London Lamar from Shelby County. I represent District 91 and I'm speaking out against HB 77 because I'm one of the few women in the legislature who are still of childbearing ages, and for me, I wanted to speak out against this egregious and inhumane piece of legislation. First and foremost, we need to affirm a woman's constitutional right to make her own decisions about abortion. Abortion restrictions seek to control a woman's reproductive freedom and support and oppress women in their communities. Access to abortion cannot be separated from human rights. So let's look at it from three different perspectives. One, let's look at the healthcare issue. This bill seeks to ban abortion as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy. Many women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. This bill endangers a woman's health and lives by interfering with their doctor's ability to treat a pregnant patient who suffers from medical conditions or could be at potential risk of dying from pregnancy. This is not a pro-life agenda. This is pro-birth. Secondly, the data. In 2014, research found that 75% of abortion patients are poor or low income, 62% are religiously affiliated, and 59% already have a child. Women without abortion services are more likely to experience poverty, unemployment, low-wage jobs, health risks, or even death. The morality of this situation. This pro-birth agenda by HB 77 supporters is inhumane and irresponsible. First, we as a state need to do more when it comes to access to health care and healthcare services, access to a fully funded education system, access to housing and food, and equity in the workplace before we force a woman to have a baby. The pro-life movement is not concerned about the well-being of a mother before, during, or after pregnancy. They are simply concerned with women pushing out babies. Secondly, rape and incest are completely inhumane. No woman should have to carry her rapist's child. Not only would this cause women to seek illegal and unhealthy means of abortion, but you will also cause mental and emotional harm to the woman and the child. This also could lead to more children in foster care or on the streets, creating more issues for this state. For rapists with pro-birth fantasies, HB 77 will empower these individuals to act on this and women to bear their injustice. As an advocate for reducing sex trafficking, we will offer less protections for those victims by making them carry the sins of their perpetrators. Why are we allowing rapists to have a free pass on women? It is unconstitutional and fiscally irresponsible to push this piece of legislation. For a state that brags about being fiscally conservative, this bill will drag the state into legal fights and cause us taxpayers to spend tons and tons of money in the courts. Also, no man should be making complete decisions about a woman's body. Men do not carry children, and they should not have the power to control a woman's body or her right to keep or terminate a pregnancy. Finally, for a state that truly believes in limited government, this bill is using government to intervene in the lives of women, their families, and their doctors. So I'm asking everyone to join me in voting and advocating against HB 77 by calling their local representatives and senators and telling them to vote against HB 77. And after me, I will have Francie Hunt of Planned Parenthood, Tennessee.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Francie Hunt, Executive Director of Tennessee Advocates for Planned Parenthood. And I want to appeal to folks that might identify themselves as pro-life and give you some reasons why you should understand that HB 77 is an extremely harmful extremist bill that is anti-woman and anti-Tennessee. Regardless of where we all may or may not agree on the morality surrounding abortion, I think that as Tennesseans we can agree that we value our own decision making. And at the end of the day, that's what this bill is about. At the heart of it is that who gets to make those decisions. And it is our value that decisions regarding a woman's pregnancy, whether it's giving that child up for adoption, terminating the pregnancy, or carrying that to term, all of those decisions around a woman's pregnancy need to be left up to a woman, her family, faith, and in consultation with her doctor. And what this bill does is it completely undermines that. There are two very sensible reasons to be opposed to this bill. One is that it is blatantly unconstitutional. There have been several lawsuits where these similar kinds of restrictions have been found unconstitutional. Every state that has taken on these restrictions related to fetal heartbeat have been found unconstitutional. Just in the last year in Mississippi, there was an attempt to ban nearly all abortions after 15 weeks, and that ban was challenged in court. And the current state of that case was that the federal judge just this past November struck down the law as unconstitutional. That was Jackson's Women's Health Organization versus Mary Courier. The federal judge stated that the 15-week ban, quote, unequivocally violates women's constitutional rights. Did you know that? The judge also wrote, quote, the record is clear, states may not ban abortions prior to viability. And according to the judge, Mississippi's law violates Supreme Court precedent, and in doing so, it disregards the 14th Amendment guarantee of autonomy for women desiring to control their own reproductive health. In fact, the judge called out Mississippi as being, quote, quote, wrong on the law, emphasizing that the 15-week ban, which the state had characterized merely as a regulation, is a ban. So that's what this is about, is banning the abortion. And as we all know, a ban on abortion does not actually eliminate abortion. It just makes it illegal, and it makes it unsafe. This ban would ban abortion for most women in this state even earlier than the bill that was considered in Mississippi. Also, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals struck down an Arkansas law in 2015 that banned abortions at 12 weeks of pregnancy if the fetal heartbeat was detected. The court said the ban violated the precedent set in a 1992 Supreme Court case that upheld the right of women to choose to have an abortion before fetal viability. The Eighth Circuit wrote, quote, by banning abortions after 12 weeks gestation, the act prohibits women from making the ultimate decision to terminate a pregnancy at a point before viability. And also in North Dakota, there was abortion ban attempt, which also banned abortion when a fetal heartbeat was detectable, and it was also struck down as unconstitutional. In July 2015, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals struck down the North Dakota law that banned abortion when a fetal heartbeat was detectable. The district court issued a preliminary injunction in 2013 to block enforcement of the law, and in April 2014 struck down the law as, quote, invalid and unconstitutional measure that, quote, cannot withstand a constitutional challenge. But we don't have to look at other states to know where this is. We can actually look at our own Tennessee State Attorney General that also called this effort a constitutionally suspect. And we can also look to the Tennessee Right to Life, which also in 2017 at a hearing also was worried about carrying this forward because they also understood that it was unconstitutional, and they were worried that this would undermine their attempts to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is their ultimate goal. So this is obviously a bittersweet proposition here, that on the one hand, sensibly speaking, this is unconstitutional and it's going to cost taxpayers dollars, while on the other hand, litigation would most surely help to uphold Roe v. Wade as the continued state of the law of the land for women's health and privacy protections. To talk a little bit more about fiscal impact, I want to make sure that our Tennesseans are aware that we're currently spending taxpayer dollars right now to defend a lawsuit for passing a 48-hour waiting period, which creates an undue burden on patients because right now it requires 2 doctor visits. And the 3 states that we mentioned whose pre-viability bans have been struck down have ended up paying nearly $1 million in taxpayer money. Now, here in the state, I heard earlier this year that Governor Bill Lee asked all departments to create their budgets with a 2% cut across the board so they can see what necessary fiscal measures that they would need to keep us sound financially. And it would be very irresponsible, given the fact that we're looking at potential cuts, to also be looking at lawsuits that we know are going to cost taxpayers money. And again, for those folks that are anti-abortion rights folks, you should know that that money actually goes to the litigators that are actually pro-abortion advocates. So be aware of that as well. So there are lots of reasons to be against this for many ethical and moral reasons, which we won't go into. But the top two I think Tennesseans need to be aware of is that it is blatantly unconstitutional, it is fiscally irresponsible, and we need to make sure that we pass laws that respect women and put our priorities where they need to be. Thank you.
Hi, I'm State Representative Gloria Johnson from House District 13. I think we really understand that this is about banning abortions. And banning abortions does not eliminate abortion. It just makes it less safe and puts pregnant women and their families at risk. Let's be clear. We all want the same thing. No unwanted pregnancies. What we disagree on is how we get there. But I think research shows us that appropriate health care for women, access to birth control, and age-appropriate sex education have been demonstrated to be successful. The same folks pushing this bill have continually tried to deny all of those things in Tennessee. The TNGOP chooses to give a violent rapist the right to choose the mother of their child, but won't allow a woman to choose not to have her rapist baby. We need to trust women to make these decisions in consultation with their family and their physician, and not the government. The message being sent to women in this session is dire. The GOP wants to make rapist dads and lock up mothers. This is not who we are. Please call your representatives and the representative on the Health Committee to let them know that we want the Tennessee legislature to trust women. Thank you. Any questions?
Can you guys describe a little bit about what's on the bill? I mean, just in general, real quick, can you describe what's on there?
What the bill does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, well, what the bill does is it makes abortion illegal if if a fetal heartbeat is detected, which is typically around 5 or 6 weeks. And generally, a lot of folks aren't even aware until that time that they are pregnant. So they don't go to seek that care and that consultation with their doctor until that point. And so ultimately, it would basically ban abortion.
Are you guys going to think about writing maybe an alternative bill or something to it? Or?
I think we need to send a strong message and vote no on this bill.
What was your view on the morality and reasonability of the law on abortion currently in Tennessee?
The morality around the situation that this is immoral, excuse me. The morality around this is the fact that it's immoral and inhumane. We truly believe that women should have reproductive autonomy over their decisions, and access to abortion and those decisions should be made with a woman and her family or a woman and her doctor. Again, not all women have the capacity to actually carry a baby. I've known women who have died from pregnancy because their body couldn't sustain, their heart stopped. And so what we are doing is, instead of being about the totality of woman's health and ensuring that she can be able to have healthy pregnancies, or if she has medical conditions where she can't, this will intervene in their ability to make decisions. Also, the sponsor of this bill said that even if you are raped or a victim of incest, you should not be able to access abortion care. Again, that's inhumane that a woman will have to carry her rapist's child.
But what's your view on where the law stands currently in Tennessee?
As of right now, although we want to push for increased expansion of abortion services, right now, viability, or you can't get abortion after 24 weeks. And right now, we're more so pushing that there should be a 48-hour stop between the first doctor visit and you being able to terminate that pregnancy. However, right now, it's in my personal opinion, we've made great strides and it's okay. What this law would do is restrict the access we already have. We already have limited abortion services, especially in our rural counties where women have to travel all the way across the state just to see a doctor or access these services in the first place. So at this point, it will further restrict those services in a state where services are already restricted in itself.
And if I can just elaborate as well, thank you, Representative Lamar. So right now, abortion, the right to an abortion is something that's protected in the state of Tennessee, and so that women and their families are able to make that private medical decision. And there are actually lots of regulations currently. There's parental consent laws. There's the viability ban that passed last year already. There are lots of licensing requirements and things. Abortion's considered one of the safest medical procedures that there is. So, I think that where we don't need to be adding laws is where we would be.
A similar bill was introduced in the last legislative session. Tennessee Right to Life, like Bill said, came against it. We also heard the Attorney General saying he was constitutionally suspect. Now you guys are coming out again against it. What makes you think it can pass this time?
The nature of the legislature, that's a good question for the legislature. We hope that it's not likely to pass, but.
Since subcommittee last week, there have been an increased number of Republican representatives and senators who have signed on to the bill. Many of those sit on the health committee. So we're confident that unfortunately this bill may potentially pass subcommittee. And also the governor came out in support that he will sign on to a bill such in this nature. So we're concerned because there's a lot of support on the GOP side for this bill, and seeing the increased number of co-signers who jumped on since last week has us concerned that this bill has a lot more leverage to pass this year over last year, and that's a concern for us as well. And what we've seen is that it interferes with a woman's ability to make decisions about her health. And if you notice, the majority of those co-sponsors are men. And so we are allowing men to make decisions about our health and our ability to control, our access to abortion services, healthcare providers, and protect ourselves. So it's a concern for myself, Representative Johnson, Representative Stewart, who's standing here in support with us, and we want to speak out about that. Yes.
As Representative Lamar and I were both in the committee, and as two women listening to men talk about this issue was incredibly frustrating to not have a woman's voice on that committee. There was no one, I felt there was no one speaking for us, and because you really need a woman's perspective on this. And as you know, I prefer that it would be all women voting on this issue.
Yeah. And under the banner of, standing strong for women, I think it's very important for us to understand who is it that actually gets abortions. Most abortions are actually by married women who already have children. So this is very important for us to be able to honor their decisions to be, with their families and care for their families the way they know best and not the way politicians think know best.
A couple other states are using a similar law to this one to sort of run it up the court system in hopes of getting in front of the Supreme Court, a more conservative Supreme Court, and getting some chunk of Roe v. Wade overturned or something along those lines. I mean, what are your thoughts with that? I mean, Speaker Cassidy, I think, has said something along the lines of this is a fight he thinks is worth having in front of the Supreme Court.
We're up for the fight, and all of the cases that we just mentioned were actually those were in conservative courts. That's how blatantly unconstitutional this is. So it is a huge waste of time and taxpayer dollars when we could be focusing on access to health care across the board, great public schools, making sure that we're really supporting Tennesseans the way they deserve.
And it's important to note that women make up the majority of the state, and the message that is being sent to women from this current legislative body is dire, in my opinion. And women are stepping up, and they will be heard from, and they are ready for the fight.
Representative Stewart, what do you do to convince your colleagues, your men? you work with that they're maybe on the wrong side?
Well, I guess as a first step, I can do what I'm doing right now, which is stand up in support of Representatives Lamar and Johnson. They've been characteristically thorough and on point, and I don't think I can add anything to what they've said, but I'll certainly repeat those arguments. And I think they're correct. I mean, I think we should listen to the women of Tennessee very carefully before we move forward with the sort of, as someone said, blatantly unconstitutional legislation.
Can you refresh my memory on the viability bill that was passed last year?
Sure, you're gonna have to look it up again. I feel like it was a bill that was, might have been sponsored by Matthew Hill. And it was a bill that would have, that actually passed, that abortions are not allowed after viability is detected, which is in line with Roe v. Wade.
Was that last year or 2 years ago?
2017?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Francie, you mentioned also a lawsuit on the 48-hour period.
Yes, we are currently under that right now.
Okay, do you know the name of the case? It would be.
I do. I'm trying to.
Was
let me see if I
that
have
last
it.
year? Did it start litigation last year?
I'm sorry, I don't remember. Let me look. I think I might have it here. I have a whole list of all the abortion case law if you'd like for me to read it. So many, so many things. And I'm happy to offline talk to you all more about it. Let's see. There's. Let's see. Maybe I don't have it in this one. I can get it for you. It's on my phone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I'd be interested in that as well.
So thank you so much for coming.
Let me get it. It's on my phone. Make sure my